Get ready, get set for the best movie and pop culture talk in the universe. It's the Good Brothers on Mercado Airwaves with your hosts, Alex Mercado and Mike Mercado.
Welcome in, friends, to another episode of The Good Brothers. I'm your host, Mike Mercado, as always joined with the good brother himself, Alex Mercado. What's going on, good brother?
How's it going, good brother?
Everything is everything, my friend. It is going to be one of the biggest shows of the year. We are going to a galaxy far, far away. It is our Star Wars spectacular here on The Good Brothers. We are going to do this the way it should be done. We're going to go chronological order. We're going to go from episode 1 all the way to The Last Jedi. We're going to talk about how Star Wars has made us feel in our lives, what it's meant to us, what it's meant to pop culture, and so much more. Alex, what can we expect on this huge, spectacular Star Wars show?
I think we've both been pretty excited about this the whole year because, Star Wars is such a big part of our lives. And we're not those cynical older. We're in that nice middle age of people who grew up on the prequels.
Yep.
But we also watched the originals first because we had a nice VHS set that we stole from one of our uncles, just walked out with. And we grew up watching that on repeat and watching 1, 2,
mind you,
well, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We'll probably make that mistake a few times today.
Right.
But the original 3.
And remember, Phantom Menace came out in 99, so it's like it was right at that perfect age. We were 9 and 7, so like we were old enough to remember.
We were growing up with it too because it was every 3 years at that point.
Yeah.
Which was crazy to me that they filmed one every 3 years. Boom, boom, boom. And we saw every single one of those opening night. There were years we had to sit in the very front row because that's the only seats available. But we still watched it. And I think that's only Star Wars you can get away with watching in the front row and being like, at least I'm here opening night. And I can enjoy it still. Like, I've never been in the front row and enjoyed a movie more than I think Revenge of the Sith. Me and our mom had to sit in the front row. And we had to spread you and Marcos out throughout the theater with friends that were there. But we all got to see it, and it was a long, great movie. I loved it. We didn't get home till like 3:30. We didn't have to go to school the next day. Our mom was cool like that. So those are fun memories.
Yeah, and as you could tell, we got a lot that we're gonna get into in this episode. That's why it is called the Star Wars Spectacular, because that's exactly what this is. Alex, it's gonna be a hell of a show. It's gonna be a fun one. We'll be right back here on The Good Brothers on Mercado Airwaves. Stay tuned.
If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Mercado21Alex. Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, Mike Mercado2333. Mercado Airwaves is brought to you by supporters at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves.
Let's get right into it, Alex. Nothing was bigger than the release of Star Wars Episode 1 of Phantom Menace for our childhood, leading things like Titanic and Terminator 2. This was kind of the one that really, even at a young age, for me at 9 years old, I realized how big movies were, because like other than that, it was Batman movie, it was like action Arnold Schwarzenegger movies. This was like something just so bigger. It was on the news. It was every person knew Star Wars was coming back on to our lives.
Well, it's like you said, like we grew up in a stage where Star Wars wasn't around at first. It was nostalgia. Everyone had fond memories of those original 3, and like I said, most people may not have even seen those original 3. But when the new one came out, Phantom Menace, the hype was real. 1999, things were a little crazy back then. And a new Star Wars movie revamping, like even old school people were so excited about this because they remember from the 70s of like that experience they had when A New Hope came out.
Right, in the 70s and then into the 80s with the next two. And then you dealing with the fact of the technology boom of that time was so huge in 1999 where this movie was groundbreaking. It was the Avatar of its time. It was the cinematic movies that we're seeing, the Star Wars of what it is now.
I mean, like, it's easy to say Star Wars might be the most important franchise in all film,
and
honestly.
We'll get to that when we get to episode 4. I think that's easy to say. It's not even superlative.
Like, it's the summer blockbusters, or in this case, Christmas, winter blockbusters.
Yeah, at this point.
Back and forth. Like, it's a blockbuster nonetheless. Like, even their movies that diehard fans don't like, find parts they like in it. And they made a ton of money, and they went to their audience. So I think we got to get out of the way early on the show is I love the prequels. I think the prequels are amazing. I think anything Star Wars is amazing. I think that just compared to the originals, it's an unfair comparison. Like, you're comparing 100% to about an 85%. 85% still being great, but it's never going to be that 100%, and that's okay if it's not. But let's admit it. The prequels did a couple things better than the originals did.
The prequels did some good things because they're comparable movies. The problem is when you're comparing them to Star Wars, to A New Hope, Empire, and to Return of the Jedi, they're not in the same ballpark. They're good movies.
See, I feel like Revenge of the Sith is with those.
Well,
and honestly, Phantom Menace, I think the only real miss of all Star Wars movies has been Attack of the Clones.
Well, I mean,
and I think the last 20 minutes kind of saves it.
Episode 1, and we could get into it right now. Especially
I guess we'll go in order.
Well, my biggest let's go to what we liked about Episode 1. Well, obviously the easiest thing everybody loves.
Everything.
The best things to like about Episode 1 are Darth Maul.
Yep.
Underutilized character, which is a bad thing.
Also, Toad and the X-Men. Fun little fact for everyone.
Yeah, there it is. Qui-Gon Jinn, played by Liam Neeson.
A classic. Like, for someone who only, spoiler alert, does one Star Wars movie, he sticks out like crazy, and people still remember that performance throughout, all the movies.
And then we have, obviously, Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, a young Obi-Wan Kenobi.
A young Obi-Wan, his origin. It's basically an origin story for not only Anakin, but for Obi-Wan Kenobi, how this leads him to that desert spot that we meet him at first.
Yeah, when they're on Tatooine.
Yeah.
And that's a really cool, and like that, those are really cool about the things you meet. You kind of see more the backstory of like the Senate and how the politics work in Episode 1. The promise to a lot of diehard Star Wars fans, they didn't get too much into that. Mind you, when they were making this movie, that wasn't what was popular. This was 20 years ago at this point. Almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So like, that type of thriller wasn't wanted in the Star Wars universe. But like, there was definitely missed things. But let's talk about maybe... I mean, it's easy. We'll go back to the good things, but like, let's the elephant in the room. Jar Jar Binks might be one of the worst characters in all of pop culture.
Okay, I get that, but he sold. The costume sold. The candy sold. The toys sold. Kids love Jar Jar Binks. Guess what?
Too.
People didn't like Ewoks back then, and we look at them 30 years later, and we're like, or 40 years later, even now, almost 50, and we love Ewoks. I love Ewoks. Well, at least I do, and most people do.
Yeah, I love the Ewoks.
And I'm just saying, like, Jar Jar Binks may not have been for everyone. And maybe it was a little Star Wars fans a little spoiled, but they needed something.
I mean, I was a kid when Phantom Menace came out. I didn't like Jar Jar Binks.
I thought he was fine. I thought he was funny. He did his job. He was looking stupid things, getting shocked, barely helping win the war. He was funny.
There's no other characters like that. And like, even in
Ewoks.
Like, that's literally the last movie they ever thought.
I mean, technically Chewbacca works, but he's a goddamn big bear. Like how it's.
But he was badass.
I get it doesn't work for some people, but I appreciate the effort they try to get a new one like that. Now maybe Chewbacca works because he doesn't talk.
Maybe
that helps
and
a lot.
Solo's right
and
there.
then he's a cuddly teddy bear, and one's like a lizard with weird eyes. I get why he doesn't like it, but at my age, at that point, I'm 7 years old, maybe turning 8. And I loved it. I thought it worked. It worked for me, and guess what? It worked because it sold.
But like,
it sold.
And it doesn't age well neither with the racial undertations of it. Like, it is what it is. Like, people are able to see behind the cloak and mirror of being like, okay, yeah, we know what you're trying to interpret in this universe.
For,
like you don't,
like this is a slave people. This is
like it's not they're not being subtle about it, and like I don't know, good or bad, whatever.
Well, now
means.
Here's one of my things that used to bother me about the original 3, 4, 5, and 6. That I love that the prequels did better is lightsaber fights.
Yeah, but
because you have this universe of lasers and lightsaber, and I get graphics back then, and I get that like this whole choreography of martial arts. There was no martial arts. Like nowadays, look at the John Wick movies. You have great stunt choreographers to make these great scenes, and I thought they did it so well. Like that lightsaber battle is one of the greatest battles ever in any movie.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Double lightsaber Darth Maul versus Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, like. It's amazing, and I still remember it so fondly.
I'm not going to say that some of the action scenes and the stunts in Phantom Menace aren't some of the best in the series. I mean, you look at the pod races. You look at...
Oh, my God, pod races are so fun. Amazing. And then we get
I hate little Anakin. I hate little Anakin. I hate midichlorians.
See how slow I had to respond? Yeah. I really can't defend little Anakin.
So, like, Phantom...
They had a cool shadow of Darth Vader, though. Yeah, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's a cool meme
little
and
Easter eggs back in the day.
Yeah, that was cool at the time. That was cool marketing.
I can't defend that. I also can't defend the racist little bug that has him with the big nose.
Little Anakin!
The very bad Jewish stereotype that's terrible. It didn't hit on all cylinders.
And, like, again, this is a George Lucas... directed movie, which he just all the great George Lucas does, there's a lot of bad that George Lucas does. It's very evident.
Yeah, it's very innocent, ignorant sort of thing. Where like I don't think he's thinking of mean to be ignorant. It's just, I don't think he double checks some of these things.
And it's funny the differences between him and one of his best friends and Steven Spielberg, where they're both just some of the all-time greatest, and like they've meant so much to pop culture, but like the subtle differences of like Man, one is a legit
genius.
Like, and one is a genius.
And that genius tendencies, I'd say.
And one that's a genius that has great tendencies.
Spielberg's a genius in many categories. I feel like George Lucas has his niche, and he's great at his niche, and there's no problem with that.
And it's very, I think that's a very interesting comp, because one of the things we've all been waiting for is maybe one day we get the Steven Spielberg directed Star Wars film. Who knows if that would ever happen? But won't happen. Yeah.
Okay, now, so like before we move on to the other movies, I think that's pretty much all we have. I mean, how do you like Natalie Portman?
Natalie Portman's fine.
I think I love Natalie Portman. Yeah. I think she gets a lot of shit for some of the movies she does, but like
she's Natalie Portman.
No one else was gonna do that role any better.
Natalie Portman's Natalie Portman. She's a great actress. Sometimes she shows up, sometimes she doesn't.
I think she did fine. Like she does fine at Thor. Sometimes I think George Lucas maybe doesn't have the best writing for these actors because both those actors. We'll get to Hayden Christensen in the next movie. Yeah. They go on to have pretty great award-winning careers. But okay, let's do this while we go through
Natalie
movies.
Portman does.
What is your score for
episode 1,
Phantom Menace? What would be your score so we can kind of keep track of where we don't want to get to the end and be like, okay, this movie's better than this, but wait, you scored it this way.
So Phantom Menace, all things being equal, is a fun movie with all the like how cool Darth Maul is and just reestablishing it. So I'm going to give it a 3 even, but that will be the highest. No, it's the second highest you'll see in the prequel. So I'm gonna give it a 3 even.
See, I'm a big nerd for the Star Wars. Like I'm an unapologetic nerd about it. So they're all gonna be high scores, guys. I'm gonna admit that right now. The problem is we're gonna get the lowest is maybe 7.5. This one I'm giving an 8, or in this case a 4 out of 5 since we have our new scoring system. So I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. It's my second favorite of the prequels. And I have more fond memories than bad memories of it. I had a lot of fun watching this. This was my Star Wars movie. Like I had seen our uncle's Star Wars movies and our parents' Star Wars movies. I'm like, this one's mine now. I have a Star Wars movie. Love it or hate it, this one's mine. And guess what? My lightsabers are a little cooler still.
Sure. Now let's get into what I consider the worst Star Wars film in all of canon. Maybe the worst Star Wars thing that's not the Christmas special.
Beside the cartoon of the same name in the theater. Yeah, I agree.
And that's not the Christmas special, is Star Wars Episode 2, The Attack of the Clones. Again, this is a movie that's a mess. This is a movie that has no idea what it wants to be. The climax scene is nothing but CGI characters going against each other. Kind of how Phantom Menace was, except you got, Darth Maul. I was never a fan of Count Dooku.
I like Count Dooku. He does his job.
I obviously love the actor that plays him, but like
just recently passed.
Maybe about 2 years ago. But like that's there's again, it's a Star Wars movie, so there's elements you love in it. Like we haven't even talked about Mace Windu, played by Samuel Jackson.
Well, I was just going to bring that up, how important. That's why I like these movies, too, is because we're starting to get, instead of just, here's 3 Jedis, Yoda, Obi, and Luke, and Darth, I guess, 4. Well, he's a Sith. We start getting into, man, there's all these Jedis and temples, and, there's Padawans, and it was just so exciting. You're like, man, there's an African-American Jedi with a purple lightsaber, and that's an alien with an orange lightsaber, and we even had the video game of this. And we got to play with some of these characters. Like, they diversitize it more. It's not just 3 white dudes or 3 white dudes and an alien. There's tons of different Jedis. That's fun.
And beside Jedi itself, like they've done a great job of like expanding the universe. They've always done a great job of making you feel like the universe is literally huge. But
so we can agree that I think they do that good in all the movies, regardless.
In every movie, I know,
they do a good job with characters.
Yeah, but I think episode 2 is the one that drops the ball the hardest. Like it was a moment where you had to fall in love with Hayden Christensen, and you never did.
And that's right. And to me, it's like he. And we know you gave him a little flack earlier, but he's one of the best actors in Hollywood right now when it comes to these young independent roles. And I'll quote it right now: he's gonna win an Oscar one day. He's a great actor. Maybe he took some roles that weren't so great, but who didn't?
Who wins an Oscar first? Rob Patterson, Hayden Christensen, or High School Musical?
Zac Efron.
Zac Efron. Who wins Oscar first? Okay.
Because he's come closer already, and he's getting closer and closer every year.
Okay.
But they're all 3 of them, I think, are good actors. They just, Tom Cruise did it back in the day. Brad Pitt did it. Johnny Depp. They all played these stupid, silly roles.
None of them play Vader, and that's hard to get over. I'm just saying.
I get that's hard to get over. But to be fair, he's kind of already gone over it, and enough where he gets to show up at Star Wars conventions now.
I'm not saying he's hated.
It's one of those things where we look back and we're like, maybe we were a little tough on you. it didn't kill the series as much as we thought it was going to kill the series.
But I don't think he was great. I don't think like just because like
I
we're
think
not
the writing wasn't great for him. I thought those two could have killed the role.
No, that's fine. But I just think that regardless, I don't hate him for it. I just don't think, no matter what years gone past, like I don't hate Hayden Christensen, but I didn't fall in love with him in episode 2.
Do you think any other actors could have done that role better?
Yes.
With the same writing? I don't think so. I think all that we're yelling at is a more known actor now not doing the role.
The original actors did, and that's why the original 3 are classics.
Different times.
Maybe I'm just saying. All I'm saying is, what we were given, we were supposed to fall in love with that character so that when he fell, it hurt more. And
I get it. We'll get into again. I think as much as we love these characters in the originals, they're very one-sided. But we're gonna save that for when we get to those movies.
And I hated the clones.
Now, to me, the whole point of Attack of the Clones, I agree, it's the worst Star Wars movie ever, just ever.
Yeah.
That's not the animated or the Christmas.
Or the
It's terrible. Yeah. But to me, if you just watch the last 45 minutes of it, when you get basically, because it gives you all the story there. Here are the clones.
Yeah, this is
they're all trapped. Yeah. And here's this awesome 15-minute scene with dragons, little lizards, and Jedis fighting clones. That is one of my favorite scenes in Star Wars. It's in the worst movie.
Yeah, but it's in the worst movie.
It's so much
fun. It's a chore to get there.
It is a chore to get there. That's why I'm saying, as being the worst movie,
I hate that
watch
movie.
the last 45 minutes and you'll have fun.
And
whenever it's on, I watch literally just the last 45 minutes.
I've seen Attack of the Clones maybe 4 or 5 times. And that's saying something because Star Wars you got to watch so many times. But I never stop and watch that episode 2 anymore.
Again, last 45 minutes you'll be a happy person.
Yeah, but then again it's on TNT. It's that 45 minutes takes an hour and a half. You're like it ain't even.
I kind of like the scene where he goes and kills those people that killed his mom. I kind of like that scene.
Yeah, but
and then it's ruined with the sand moment. But I kind of like it.
But that's what I'm saying. I hate sand.
Well, okay. Here's what we're gonna talk about. So we only got to talk about it now. Metachlorians.
Oh, it's the worst thing. I wanted to try to ignore it. I wanted to try to ignore it. It defeats the purpose of anybody could be a Jedi. Any moment, anybody.
But not anyone can be a Jedi.
Yeah, that's the point. Anybody can be. Now, I guess in retrospect, when you start thinking okay, Luke, it's not that Luke was special when he tapped into the Force. He was born into the Force. That's fair. But the idea that you took that away from anybody could tap into the Force, because the Force is supposed to be every living thing, everything of the universe, not blood cells and your genos.
I mean, who knows? Rey could. I mean, we could find out from Rey that maybe it's different now. But I mean, obviously, that'd be retconning a little bit.
Retconning it.
I guess to me, I have no defense of it, and I have no attack on it because I guess it didn't really bother me. And again, maybe it was the age where those were the scenes I really didn't even pay much attention. I'm like, ooh, look at the circles, look at all the aliens in here. I guess that's the difference. And the older I get, the more I'm just I can ignore that stuff now, but it doesn't make it good. So, we're not going to talk about it again because they're stupid.
Yeah, I hate
and they basically never talked about it again. And if I hear rumors they might talk about it, I think more as a retcon of
some people were saying they were going to retcon it.
I think they're going to retcon it where it's okay, these exist, but not the way you think. And then I think, like you said, it's going to be more well, no, anyone can be a Jedi. Yeah. It's just if your family was one, you're more prone
or likely to be one.
But so now we get to Revenge of the Sith.
Let's go ahead and score episode 2. Attack of the Clones.
Oh, we have to.
Yeah, since it's the worst movie.
I mean, okay, but here's the thing I'm going to say again: the worst Star Wars movie is still better than a lot of movies. Had that movie come out this year, it'd probably be on a couple of top 10 lists of superhero movies.
Oh, I don't think so.
It'd be up there. It would be better than Kingsman. It'd probably be better. People would probably like it better than Justice League. Ooh. And I love Justice League. I'm just saying people, the way people talk. I'm I guarantee anything Star Wars probably outscores it.
I don't want to live in that universe. Give me a score for the worst Star Wars movie.
I'll go 3 out of 5.
Oh, that's terrible. 3 out of 5.
That's a 6 out of 10 basically. That's not great, but it's Star Wars still. It still has cool visuals. It still has fun actors. Samuel Jackson, come on.
It's the easiest 2 I've ever given.
He's a Jedi.
It's the easiest 2. Let's move on to what is the best in the prequels. What is arguably deserves to be in the family of, and I will fight for episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I will fight for this movie. It is a fun, action-packed movie. It is carried by Ewan McGregor. It is carried by Obi-Wan.
That's his, what is the word? Swanton? Swanton? What is that word? That's his movie.
Yeah, that's his swan song.
Swan song. There you go. My bad. Swan song. I'm thinking of wrestling.
Yeah,
thinking of wrestling movies here.
Jeff Hardy.
But no, it's just such a good finish to his career. It's not a finish. He probably did so good at that. They're gonna give him a movie, which is the worst kept secret in Hollywood. That we're gonna get an Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan movie.
Right.
But man, does he just bring it at the end there? The beginning is great. The middle is good. The ending is great again. Now the middle turns to drag just a
it's a
little
long
bit,
movie.
but we get cool action of him escaping the island and the death of all the Jedis out of nowhere, and we get a nice Samuel L. Jackson fight. We get a lot of great stuff in this movie.
And like
the
death of Samuel Jackson is pretty.
Yoda's best fight ever, where we're like, oh my god, this little dude can do it. He's the best. We see Chewie.
Yeah,
and Chewie and Yoda know each other.
Which is Ewoks. We see Wookiees.
The Wookiees, we see the Wookiees. Big Ewoks.
Yeah, right.
And they save Yoda,
And then we get the only time I feel like Hayden Christensen ever really tapped into
Darth
that
Vader
dialogue
at the end
at Mustafar, where you see the two.
When he goes full heel.
Yeah, he definitely goes full heel. And, I got the high ground and you were the chosen one. It's like it's one of some of the greatest. You talk the greatest lightsaber fight, including The Force Awakens, is Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader in Revenge of the Sith.
Exactly. It's great. Again, like probably one of the better endings of a Star Wars film, which is saying a lot. We get everything we want. And I think people started feeling like, you know what? This is kind of the story we wanted. We probably could have skipped the adolescence because we went from being Darth Vader. He made a tough choice. Like he wanted his family to live and he thought this is what was best for him. Instead, we kind of got a growing up story of he's kind of a pansy. He's kind of sensitive. Like, he's kind of a brat.
Yeah, he is.
And I don't think we wanted a brat. I think we wanted a tormented man who was like, I need to do this to save my wife and my kids.
By any means.
And that's what we got in Revenge of the Sith. And I think that's why people were like, okay, I like that. We can keep that. We can keep Revenge of the Sith. And that's why I think they say, okay, nothing else except for Ewan McGregor, maybe.
People forgive Revenge of the Sith a lot, and
because I think people are like, it's actually pretty good.
It does have some bad though. I think the hamminess of what is "You're breaking my heart." She died of a broken heart.
I like that.
No, that's all garbage.
That was great.
When the little
come on, broke your heart, my dude.
No, when the little Padawan is like looking all scared.
It was adorable.
He
killed children.
There's a lot of bad in that movie.
You're cynical. That's the problem.
No,
that stuff all works
that
for me.
Movie has some
At
bad.
the end, he's dropping off the babies.
Oh, and that
I liked it. It was necessary. So necessary.
But it is to me one of the most.
My favorite.
It's my favorite of the prequels. It's one of the ones that really, at the very least, salvaged what the prequels were supposed to be from all along. And it really, to me, it solidifies and it really defines what the prequels were. Where it was a lot of potential, a lot of fun, a lot of head-scratching moments, and also a lot of bad, but that comes with something that you love. And you also learn what you want from Star Wars and what you don't want from Star Wars. That's what the prequels gave you.
I guess, okay, here's my question. If you had two lists, a top 10 trilogy list and a bottom, trilogy list. So, let's say a good trilogy, like Captain America trilogy on that list.
Sure.
This one kind of falls more into the Terminator stance where I feel like, does one movie or does 1.5 good movies or 2 good movies forgive a terrible third? And to me, I think that when you look back at the prequels and you start talking about trilogies, it's going to be more on the good side than the bad side. Because I feel like there's at least a 1.5, 1.75% great movies, and then maybe another 1.25 where you're like, that wasn't so great. But a lot of trilogies get the pass on it, so why not the prequels?
Well, because I think there was not enough strength individually by each one. So, for example, take out.
See, I don't like that.
But take out any movie from an average trilogy. So take out.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, you're making a good point. I just did that for Terminator. I'm like, take out Terminator 3, and wow, it's still a good door. Take out Godfather 3, and wow, that's really
even
good.
Godfather 3 like that. I'm just like, the point is I understand where you're coming from it, but when you individually check it out, it's like Star Wars: The Phantom Menace doesn't hold up on its own when it comes to a lot of things. Either this episode 2, episode 3 is the only one that holds up. And we're talking about it's the bottom of the ring when it comes to holding up to the universe, but it holds up. Now, I think people are going to be surprised that I gave it a 4. I think that this is a Star Wars movie that hits on all things. To me, you can't tell me The Force Awakens is a 4 and that Revenge of the Sith isn't. Do I think what Episode 7 gets right, it does better than what Episode 6 does? Excuse me, what Episode 3 does? Sure. Force Awakens does a better job at hitting the home run than Revenge of the Sith. But I don't think...
see that? We'll get into that.
Yeah,
I think it's closer than we think.
But that's what I'm saying. So, to me, it's a 4. It's an easy 4. It's a good Star Wars movie. It deserves to be where it's at, and it deserves to be in the consideration of the family. Say what you will about episode 1 and 2. You've heard what I thought about them, but episode 3 of the Revenge of the Sith, to me, it is what the prequels should have been from start, and I think it deserves to be in the family. I'm gonna give it a 4.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a 4 too. And I just brought this up because I kind of wanted to check once you were saying that the Rotten Tomatoes scores for these movies.
Sure.
Because we keep saying, I'm like, these are good movies regardless if they're good Star Wars wise. And you look at Revenge of the Sith, that's a 79% of Rotten Tomatoes.
Sure.
Even the earlier ones are well above 50%.
Which again, you expect more from Star Wars. Like, that's the thing. Like,
I mean, dude, an 80% is pretty damn good.
I mean, ask the DCEU, they'd kill for that right now.
That's what I'm saying. Like, look at some of these movies that we've enjoyed don't even get 80%. Some Marvel movies don't get 80%. It's like, it's a good score. And I think that just goes to say how powerful Star Wars is, regardless.
Well, it's so powerful that, the opening crawl in Episode 4, A New Hope? Well, they made a whole movie out of that, called Rogue One, that came out last year, Alex, and arguably, to me, the second best Star Wars movie ever made.
If you would like to support Mercado Airwaves, visit us at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. Find us on iTunes at Mercado Airwaves. Keep up to date with the show on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves.
You can follow Alex on Twitter at Mercado21Alex.
Follow Mike on Twitter at mmercado2333 and on Instagram, MikeMercado2333.
Mercado Airwaves is brought to you by supporters at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves.
It is the dream of what spin-offs should be. It is the culmination of what happens when smart business people with smart creative people with talented movie directors and movie makers all come together and, with quite honestly a lot of behind-the-scenes drama, find a way to make a hell of not just a Star Wars movie, not just a sci-fi fantasy movie, not just a war movie, but all those things together. Rogue One.
I do love Rogue One. I think Rogue One was way better than it was supposed to be. At the same time, not as good as it could have been.
Interesting.
I think I love Diego Luna. And again, back to the whole Samuel Jackson thing. It does matter. Races do matter. It's nice to see someone of your culture up there being like, man, like a Hispanic being in a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool. And now we're going to get Benicio del Toro for... who am I thinking about?
No, it's Benicio del Toro.
Am I right?
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro's the director.
See, that's what I was getting to Shape of Water. I was making sure. So I was right. So I had it. Another Hispanic in the Star Wars universe. So like this stuff matters. That's why Finn is so important. That's why Ray is important. And Carrie Fisher's always been important. Like it went from a lot of white leads and Lando.
Yeah.
So Billy D.
Williams.
So oh my God, like there is a lot in this universe. But my problem with Rogue One, like I'll go right into it, is again, it could have been more. And I think it's very Cuddy. It's very DC. Of all the movies, it's like a good DC movie where it's like, I'm having a lot of fun. And I love the scenes. But you could definitely tell there was a lot cut and recut from this. Because, I mean, look at Forrest Whitaker's character. That character's completely pointless in the movie. But they built around him. And it's already come out that, like, no, they had to redo his entire thing.
Right.
And I'm like, I think I wanted more of him over a lot of other stuff that we got.
But I think you got to take, like, and I agree with that. Like, there was a lot of lost potential in that movie. But for all things being equal, with all the behind-the-scenes drama with Gareth Edwards, with all the fact that they made a movie off of 3 paragraphs of a movie from 1979.
It's also Star Wars. Like, let's not call these people geniuses. Like, that's, it is a big universe. Like, I feel like you should be able to do that.
Right? No, I'm not disagreeing with it.
Like, I got high standards for these people. Like, you're making we're giving you our hard-earned money. And you've been hitting it out of the park. I expect that quality every time.
Kathleen Kennedy saw the problems that were happening behind the scenes. She took care of it.
And I agree with her. Like Lord and Miller, if they're making a damn comedy, I don't mind. Yeah. Like, it's a business. If you're not if you're not playing ball, these people hit home runs all the time. You're not going to go up to the MVP and tell them how to play when they're the MVP. They know what they're doing. What was it? Disney's 30 year in a row of $5 billion?
Yeah,
they're on track for 3 more years in a row like this. Yeah. Like, it's ridiculous.
We talked about it.
They know what they're doing.
We talked
Star
about
Wars Park at Disney World. Like, they know what they're doing, and that's why this movie turns out to be amazing still. But I guess going in, I'm like, I guess it's not my second favorite, but it could have been. It's definitely up there. I do like a lot of the war scenes.
I mean, the last scene, the last segment
Are
of
we
that
talking
movie.
about the island or Darth Vader?
I mean, yes.
Because Vader's
yes.
scene is probably, again,
Vader's scene might be the best scene in Star Wars.
it might be, yeah.
In Star Wars. Like, it
definitely
might be the best scene in Star Wars.
It's pretty damn close.
Like,
I prefer the ending of the originals. I prefer the nice happy ending, but that scene is the best action scene we've ever gotten.
And here's the thing. We know how that movie ends. And at no point in that movie was I not at the edge of my seat being like, what is going to happen? Like, I know the plants have to get to Leia. Like, I know that.
Yeah. And you know they do.
And you know they do. Like, you know it has to
But
get
I don't think anyone thought going in we were going to see that. I thought we were going to, island
thought the
blows
movie
up,
was
they
over.
die.
Yeah,
and
the movie
okay,
was
it's
over.
going to get there. No, they literally walk you right up to it. Like, here's your
right.
hand, and I'm going to walk you right to New Hope.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. All right.
Go watch it.
In the middle of the movie, and not even the middle of the movie, at the very end when we're at this climax scene of you're seeing Darth Vader, the whole time I'm watching this scene, I'm like, when is the moment they're going to fade to black? Because there's no way they're going to keep giving us this moment. They're definitely going to stop it here. You literally get to the point where you're like, okay, you finished this movie. Like Alex said, you finished this movie, pop in episode 4 now. That is what, they literally made a movie to gap 3 and 4.
And good for Disney going there with how violent a scene that was, because you could have easily just let the lightsaber and gone black. Yeah. And I think the hardcore would have been mad, but I think you still would have had enough good grace where you're like, okay, I get what you could. And the fact that they show it, I'm like, dude, you guys got it.
Yeah.
You guys get it.
You came to see Vader.
Like, you totally get what we wanted, and you gave it to us. Like, that's how, like I said, it goes back to, like, I expect you to every time now, because you always do. And that's what, maybe it's unfair, because, again, I think it maybe is a little unfair, because they're still just movies. But they're more than movies, I feel like. I feel like at this point
Star
we
Wars
can accept that. Like,
Star
Wars is pop culture almost.
When Carrie Fisher died, it was like
that's
it was something. It was big. It was Americana.
Like, Mark Hamill is probably the most famous nerd ever. Like, he doesn't have anything great under his belt. I'm not going to call him a great actor, but he's one of the best. He's one of the best performers ever.
But he's one of the most important performers ever. Just like Harrison Ford, just like
exactly.
Alan McGinnis, like all these guys. James Earl Jones' voice, like they're all forever.
He's my Mufasa personally.
He's great, and he's going to be Mufasa again. So let's go ahead and score it. This is going to be the second highest score I give any of our Star Wars movies. I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. It, to me, was everything an intense, thrilled, smart Star Wars movie is. And it took characters that were nothing, that were nobodies, that were thoughts in somebody's imagination and made them important. It's an important film in the canon, and it shows the potential of what Star Wars could be. It's a 4.5 for me.
I'm gonna go 4. I'm gonna go solid 4, because we're not gonna see a 4.5 from me till we get to the big guys. You know, so I'm saving that, but I mean, 4 is a great score, especially for a movie that, again, with so much drama, and it's literally, it is a lower end story, even with the TV show.
Sure,
it works, and it works in such a great way that it only makes you. It puts a lot of pressure on Solo, which I guess we can talk about now, since, we can talk about, since this is kind of more in the prequel area again. How do you feel about Solo? Because I'm pretty excited, but I can't help but be worried. But how can you worry about Ron Howard?
So if anybody who has not been in the loop, what has happened is they have greenlit a Han Solo, a prequel / origin film / young Han Solo, essentially. And it was originally being directed by Lord and Miller, who were the Lego movie, Sonny with the Chance of Meatballs, all like really
good comedy guys, great comedy guys.
And there was some drama behind the scenes, and Kathleen Kennedy, who runs Lucasfilm, essentially said, "Boys, you're out. Ron Howard, you're in." And Emilia Clarke is in it. Woody Harrelson is in it. Our boy Glover is in it.
Yep.
And I'm totally. Egerton is our Han Solo. But essentially, I think if you're going to go for it, go for it. I think there's more movies to go for. I think I would prefer to see an Obi-Wan. I want to see an Old Republic. I want to see...
we're going to get those new movies by Rian Johnson.
Which we don't know what they're going to be. Like which we'll get into...
Which, we don't know exactly. We can take 20 guesses. We have no idea.
Rian Johnson, for all you who don't know, is the director of The Last Jedi, and there was breaking news a little while back that he will be directing a brand new trilogy outside of what
the Skywalker
saga, which Again, we don't know what it means after Last Jedi.
There's a lot of options they can really go. Like, there's so many that, like, we can do a whole show on just theories of where they'll go with this.
Will still be enough downtime
because there's
next
so
year.
much non-canon and canon things in the books and comics that touch upon even the video games now, different things. And again, I think it's a, you know, we can end this segment by saying it's a fun time to be a Star Wars fan.
It's always been a
and
fun
these
time.
are fun memories, I think, for you and me, the prequel time, because we went from just liking Star Wars to being introduced what a fandom it really could be.
So what do you think the prequels, Rogue One, kind of what they're doing, heading backwards, trying to explore different types of the canon? When you look back at it, what is the prequel era? What is the Old Republic era? What is the Origin era mean to the Star Wars canon, Star Wars fans? And what do you see being the future of that?
I think you said it right earlier. It's we know exactly what we love, what we hate, and what we can tolerate. You know, now we know. Like, because even going back to the originals, like, now we know, like, you know what, that didn't work, but this did from here. And I think that's why these new recent movies like Rogue One, Force Awakens, we've loved them so much, is because now it's like they took what we liked about that one, took about what we liked about that one, and they put it together. So I agree with you on the fact that, like, now the prequel is good or bad. I think good. Most people think bad, but overall they respect them enough to know they were important for their own reason.
They're part of the family.
Exactly. They're accepted.
Alex, this has been a crazy filled episode, man, and we just got through the first 4 in order. So you know what, everybody? We're going to make this a 2-parter. That's right. We are going to lead you into The Last Jedi, because we have to talk about The Force Awakens. We have to talk about The Last Jedi. We have to talk about Rian Johnson. We have to talk about everything that is happening in what is some of our favorite universes, some of our favorite characters. Alex, what do you say? We play 2.
Yeah, we got to do 2. 32 years later now.
Let's do it.
I mean, Luke Skywalker.
Thank you so much for listening to us on this episode of The Good Brothers on Mercado Airwaves. I'm your host, Mike Mercado, always with the awesome one, the good brother, Alex Mercado. Alex, any advice you have for the good people listening to us?
The usual, merc it out, y'all.
Don't forget, next week, we finish off our Star Wars Spectacular. It is countdown time. It is official. You feel it in the air. It is Star Wars season. We will see you next time here on The Good Brothers.
Thanks for joining us here on The Good Brothers, here on Mercado Airwaves.